Anyway, now the Robin who invited me tonight, he didn't make it clear whether the stories actually had to be true or whether they had to be, yes, a story of dastardly fiction. Now, there's a fine story I have to tell about camels, which we're not going to tell in this exalted company, but those of you who come to me privately later on, I'll tell you about the camels. But, it's a good story, it's a good story, but only in very mixed company. Anyway, so back to my story. My story, 40 years ago, I'm taking the conservative approach here. This is a true story. This is actually about my life. And 40 years ago, almost to this day, I was on a motorcycle going through South America. And I had brought this motorcycle from England, as my accent might suggest. And I was on this motorcycle, and I was on a one-way trip from the southernmost parts of South America up to Alaska. Well, the end of the story is I never actually got to Alaska. I got to Brownsville, Texas, and I ran out of state. But before we get to Brownsville, Texas, there were some adventures along the way. There were quite a lot of adventures, some of them involving substances which may become legal here in Florida shortly, and others which are already legal in Colorado. But anyway, that's for another day. But I will just share just a couple of stories. One particular story. This involves an event I'm about 3 months into the trip. I got off this boat. It was a small Spanish cruise, call them cruise line. This thing was like a lifeboat to today's cruise liners. Anyway, so I got off in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I went south a couple of thousand miles to where the road runs out. There is no more road until you get to Antarctica. Actually, there's no road there. But anyway, so after that I turned around, went north, and I'm about 3 months into the trip, 3 or 4 months into the trip, and I'm in Bolivia. Okay? Bolivia is a very high country. And I had a nice time in Bolivia, and I've been in the capital of Bolivia, which is 14,000 feet or close to it, 14,000 if you're exaggerating a little. And I was on my way to Peru. And there I am on my motorcycle, and the road in Bolivia is at its best. We're not talking the turnpike. We're not talking I-4 here. We're talking primitive. So there I am on this. It's a beautiful day. And Lake Titicaca is the highest navigable lake in the world. It's up there about 12,000 feet. It's a big lake. And so I'm on my way, and I'm weaving around this mountain road, and I'm not going very fast. I'm going maybe 15, 20 miles an hour. I'm enjoying the scenery, and I'm on my bike, and I'm by myself, and it's a beautiful, spectacular day. And I'm sort of daydreaming a little bit. And as I'm daydreaming, and I come around this corner, this Jeep surprised me. And I fell flat in the middle of the road in front of this Jeep. And if they hadn't been going more than about 15, 20 miles an hour, they would have run over me. I would have died. Anyway, point of this story is that the occupants of this Jeep were high officials of the Bolivian Navy. The funny thing about the Bolivian Navy is that Bolivia doesn't even have an access to the sea. There is no sea. They have a lake, and they have a couple of riverboats on the Amazon River, and that's it. And so, as I picked myself up and dusted my dignity off and my pants off and so forth, it suddenly dawned on me, I could have been the only victory that the Bolivian Navy had ever had in its entire history. And I thought, this is not a statistic that I want to make. I'm not really interested in this statistic. So anyway, I picked myself up, and I dusted myself off, recovered my dignity, went off to discover other substances in Peru, and and a very special substance in Costa Rica. But this is way, way in the past. Way, way in the past. And I think I'm going to close while I'm still ahead. So,